I have a blanket. I have one tennis ball, 2 yoga blocks. I am on carpet, so I have 2 gliders. For my feet, if you are on a hard surface, you can use the blanket. And then I have a light, small resistance loop. So we are going to start with the blanket and with a block, maybe 2 blocks. We're going to take the blanket and kind of starting from about this size rectangle, you're going to roll the blanket once and a half so that you have a very small kind of cylinder. You don't want to roll it all the way up. It'll be too intense. I'm going to face this way so you can see where I'm putting it. I'm going to bring it down behind my knees. I'm going to hold it there tightly and find a way to come onto my toes with the blanket still behind my knees, and then eventually come down onto my knees. You do want to make sure that the blanket is pretty securely tight behind the knees, so not allowing it to come away from the backs of the knees as you come down. And then you're going to take 1 or 2 blocks and you're going to prop them between your feet or between your heels so that you have a little seat for your bottom. And you're going to sit to where you feel a little bit of an intense feeling in the, well, everywhere. You might feel it on the fronts of your ankles. I have my toes pointed back, so the fronts of my ankles are flat on the floor. The blanket is hard behind my knees, separating a little space in the front of my knees. And then again, I'm sitting on a block at a height where I'm able to sit up. And this might be so intense that initially you have to bring your hands to the ground. That's fine. This can be, for some of us, a really intense sensation. We're going to sit here for about a minute. We've probably already been here for about 30 seconds. So just spend the next 30 seconds trying to breathe deeply. So inhaling through your nose and exhaling through your nose if that's comfortable. And I'm sure for many of us, this is not comfortable. We are working hamstrings today, so the backs of your legs, the backs of your thighs. And the space that the blanket is right where the bottom of your hamstrings kind of cross the backs of your knees. So that pressure can create a sense of eventually release. I used to do this about 2 to 3 minutes a day, and it helped a lot with ankle pain for me. It helped a lot with knee pain and shin splints. So I find this to be very valuable, but today we're working on the hamstrings. So this is targeting where the hamstrings meet on the back of the knees. And we've probably been here a little bit longer than a minute. So we'll go ahead and come up. You're going to remove the blocks, remove the blanket. And we're going to start lying on our backs. You can have the blanket, if you again are on the hard surface, you're going to use the blanket on the hard surface for your feet. I'm on carpet, so I'm going to have to use the gliders. So you want to make sure that you are at the end of your mat. Your bottom is sitting at the end of your mat. And your feet are either on your blanket or those gliders. And you're going to roll down onto your back. Bring your hands down beside your hips. You can have palms down for a little bit more stability, palms up to make it a little bit more active. But we're going to just start by doing 10 hip bridges with our feet on the blanket or the gliders. So as you exhale, you're going to lift your hips. And as you inhale, you're going to lower. So exhale, squeeze glute, inhale, lower. Each time you lift, You want to think of your rib cage and your pelvis rising at the same time, kind of like they're glued in a cement block together. So we're not thinking of arching our spine, although that is a perfectly fine bridge. It's not what we're doing today. We're trying to lift and lower the rib cage at the same time. The next time you lift, stay lifted. Squeeze the glutes, lift the toes off the gliding surface, whether that's your blanket or the gliders. So heels stay on the glider. Keep your hips high and push your legs slowly out straight. Once they're straight, let the hips land on the ground and pull the heels back in close to your hips. Lift again. Keep the hips lifted high, so squeeze glutes. Push the heels down into the floor and forward to straighten the legs as slow as you can. Lower the hips, drag the heels in. 3 more just like that. So lift. Exhale as you start to straighten the legs. Try to keep the hips until the knees are straight, then lower. Good. 2 more just like that. And you might start to feel that your hamstrings, they might even cramp, but that they're working really hard to straighten the legs. Last one, lift the hips, push the legs out straight. Try to keep the hips high until the knees are straight, then lower. Draw both knees in. Pull the knees to your chest and rock your hips side to side. Allow the left foot to come to the ground. Grab one of your blocks and hold the block with your hand on the short, narrow edge. And you're going to wrap that block around the back of your thigh and grab with your other hand on the other short, narrow edge. So I have the block close to my sit bone. So down towards the top of the back of my thigh, so closer to your pelvis. We're going to pull the knee in close to the chest. And then you're going to start to push where the thigh is into the block to move the leg towards straight. Then allow the knee and the hip to flex, pulling the knee in towards the chest, bending the knee. Then find where the back of the thigh is into the block and press it into the block to move towards straight. So we're not just bending and straightening. We're actively pushing the back of the thigh into the block in order to use the hamstring to help to move towards straightening the leg. The next time you straighten the leg, it may not be perfectly straight, but as close to straight as you can, keep the leg straight and point and flex your right ankle. So when you draw your toes towards your heels, really push your heel up towards the sky and then switch, push the toes up towards the sky. Just do that a few more times, getting an extra bit of length, kind of a nerve glide up the back of your thigh. Good. Draw the knee in towards your chest. Right foot comes to the ground. We're going to switch. So now grab the block in your right hand, bend the knee towards your chest. Grab the opposite side with your left hand. And first, we're just going to start to bend and straighten the knee. But we're doing it by pushing the back of the left thigh actively into the block as we stretch our left heel up towards the sky. So each time you go to straighten, start by pushing the thigh into the block. It's there as feedback to help you actively use your hamstrings to move towards straight. Next time you straight, stay straight and point and flex your left ankle. As you point and flex, keep pushing the back of your left thigh into the block. And remember what it feels like to push. So even with your legs straight, just give it a few pulses of the back of your thigh pressing into the block to feel how you are actively using that hamstring to move towards straight. Good. Remove the block. Just place it off to the side. We're going to bring one foot back to the glider or to the blanket. So let's start with our right foot on the ground. Bring your left knee up towards your chest. You won't be able to hug it. You're just going to take the knee towards your chest. We're going to press down through the right foot. Lift your hips. Straight leg, right leg. Lower the hips. Pull it back in. And it may be more comfortable to lift the toe off the ground and just dig in with the heel to lift and then push the leg straight. 3 more on this side. So right leg draws in, hips are on the ground when they draw in. Lift the hips, keep the hips lifted as you push to straighten your right leg. 2 more. Exhale to lift, take a breath at the top. Exhale to straighten the right leg. Last time. Drag the heel in, lift the hips, press the right leg straight. Good. Draw the right knee in, left foot comes to the ground. And take that block. Now we're going to place it towards the bottom of your thigh, so closer to the back of your knee. Hold it the same way you did. So the long, narrow edge crosses the back of your thigh. You're holding the short, narrow edges with your hands. Bend the knee in towards your chest. Push the top of the back or the bottom of the back of the thigh in to straighten. So where the thigh touches your block, push that part of the thigh into the block to straighten. 3 more. Reach the heel towards the sky each time you push the thigh into the block to move towards straight. 1 more time, straighten the leg, hold and draw circles with your ankle in one direction. And draw circles with your leg, foot, ankle in the opposite direction. Maybe take your left leg long to the ground. Keep the leg lifted and remove the block. Bend the knee, take the left hand to the outside of the right knee. Pull your leg over to the left, keeping the back of your right hip on the ground, and then bend and straighten your leg. I like to hook my right thumb in my right hip crease to help me keep the right hip, the right back of the hip on the ground. Good. Bring the knee back to center. Grab your right hand inside the inner right thigh and open the leg out to the side a few times. So out to the right, keeping the left side of your body glued to the floor. You can push your thigh into your hand and then hold and bend it in. So now we're going to take our left foot to the blanket or to a glider. Bend your right knee towards your chest, so foot off the floor. Hands down beside your hips. As you exhale, press your hips off the ground. Keep the hips as high as you can as you push your left leg straight. Let the hips drop at the last minute. Drag the heel in. We have 4 more, so 5 total. Keep the hips high as you try to straighten your left leg as much as possible before you drop the hips. 3 more. 2 more. Last one. Good. Draw both knees in. Shift a little side to side. Take your right foot down to the ground. Grab the block, bring it behind your left thigh closer to your knee. Same thing. Bend and straighten. Start first by just bending and straightening, by pushing the back of your thigh into the block to stretch the leg straight. Using the block to pull the knee in. Next time you straighten the leg, keep it straight. Right leg can come to the ground. Roll your ankle a few times in one direction and the opposite. Remove the block. Take your right hand to the outside of your left knee. Bend the knee. Hook your left thumb in your left hip crease to help keep your left side of your body on the ground, and pull your right knee only as far as you can, keeping the back of your hip or the back of your pelvis on the ground, and then bend and straighten your left leg off to the right. And I'm not twisted, right? So my pelvis, I'm not rolling my pelvis over. I'm not rolling onto my side body. I'm just trying to get a little stretch in the outside of my hip, but also in the outer part of my hamstring. Good, bring it back to center. Take your left hand inside your left thigh, straighten the leg, and allow it to come out to the left only as far as you can keep your entire right side of your body on the ground. Sometimes it helps to take the right arm out to a T. And you're gonna bend and straighten this leg. And you may feel, when you go towards straightening your leg, underneath your fingers where you're holding your inner thigh, you get that little stretch, and then hold it. Good. Bend both knees in towards your chest, rock a little side to side, and then roll to either side and press up. So we're going to take the blanket folded like this now. So where we had it in this larger rectangle, we're just going to fold it in half once and make it into a smaller rectangle. We're going to need we're done with the gliders. We're going to need our tennis ball. And we're going to come down. If you were to look at your blanket, where the edge, if you're kneeling behind it, where the edge that's furthest away from you is, the bottom of your rib cage is going to rest on that edge that's furthest away from you. So your belly is going to rest in this region. So have your tennis ball close by, and then come down again. The blanket is basically resting in your abdominal area, but the bottom of your rib cage is resting on the blanket. The rest of it will not rest on the blanket. So we're going to start on our elbows. You're going to bend your right knee out to the side. Take your ball and place the ball behind your knee. And then you're going to squeeze the ball with your calf and your thigh. And then you're going to bring your knee back down on the ground behind you. Stack your forehead on your hands. And first, we're just going to start by pointing and flexing the ankle of the knee that's bent that has the ball behind it. So a little bit of advice. We're going to move slowly because you're more likely to cramp if you do any of these movements too fast. So as we start to move, just move slowly. So point the toes straight up towards the sky. The left leg is long on the ground, so find your left leg. You're going to start by pressing the top of your left foot into the ground so the ankle is flat. Press the top of the foot into the ground, press the knee towards the ground, and press the thigh towards the ground. So keep pressing the left leg strongly into the ground. You're going to just think of kicking your heel a little closer to your hip and then lifting your right knee off the ground. Push it back down or release it back down. So before you lift your right foot each time or your right knee each time, you're going to strengthen your left leg to the ground. So press the left leg down and then lift the right knee. Lower down. Slide your right hand underneath the front of your right hip. So where you would put your hand if it was in a pocket. So as you do the next 3, try not to let your hip lift off of your hand. So press the left leg down strongly into the ground. Squeeze the block or the ball behind your knee. Keep your hip attached to your hand. Lift your knee. Good. 2 more. Lift your knee. Good. 1 more this time. We're going to hold it for 10, 9. Keep pushing left leg down. Keep lifting right knee. Keep the hip on the hand. 3, 2, 1. Good. Release the leg back down to the ground. If you need to take a break, if you have a cramp in your hamstring, you can release the ball, or you can leave it there if it's comfortable. And just take a moment to look for a second. So this next thing, I'm going to show you kind of what we're going to do and then how we're going to get to the next position. So we'll lift up, watch first. We'll lift up onto our elbows. They're not right under my shoulders. They're kind of forward of the shoulders. The hand of the leg that's bent will come kind of out and away from your shoulder. And then you're going to lift the same way, but then you're going to push yourself and roll open and knee towards the sky, toe towards the ground. We'll do that a few times. So we'll do this several times. The last time I'll say, keep the knee back. The bottom knee is going to slide forward, and then we're going to transition into this position. So come down onto your belly. If the ball is no longer behind your knee, put the ball behind your knee again. So we're going to rise up onto our elbows. My elbows are wider than shoulder distance apart, and they are forward of my shoulders. I'm going to slide my right hand down and away from my shoulder. Point the right toe towards the sky. You're going to push up onto the left side, tap the toe behind you, knee towards the sky, roll back down. We're going to do that for 7 more times. So 8 total. Roll open, roll down. So lift knee first, then like a scorpion tail, sting it behind you. There's 3, 4. So each time lift the knee before you roll open. So we want that hip extension, then rotation. 2 more, hip extension, rotation. Lift the knee, stay here. Bend the left knee forward. And then use your hands to press up. So I still have the tennis ball between the back of my hamstring and my calf muscle. So now we're going to use that to give us a little bit of a massage. So you can have the right knee in the arch of the left foot, or if you want a little bit more rotation in your hip, you can have your knee in line with your hip and your knee in line with your hip. So it's more like a 90-90 position. So where you would have your right pocket, you're going to push your pocket back and glide your sit bone down, and then you're going to push your pocket forward, right? So there's rotation in the pelvis. But what we're also getting as we go back, we squeeze the ball a little tighter. And as we roll forward, we kind of let it go. So we're getting that massage of the hamstring muscles that are closest to your knees, and then the calf muscle, which the hamstrings kind of come and intersect. So just a few more of those. We're also getting good rotation in our pelvis and our hip joint. Good. Now bring the knees together. And we're going to press up. And as you come back down, squeeze the ball. You can use your hands to crawl forward and crawl back. Or if you want, you can use your glutes to squeeze you up and lower you back down. So kind of choices here. What do you feel most strong with? The ball is still there. Come back down. Bring your elbow to the ground and line with your left hip. Left knee is still out in front of you. We're going to lift the right knee off the ground. We still have the block back there. We're going to bring the knees to meet out in front. And then we're going to take the knee back in line with the hip. We'll do this 4 more times. So I like to use my hand on top of my right hip so that the hip doesn't move. I'm getting all of this movement from my hip extensors, my glute and my hamstring. This time as you take it forward, reach behind, grab the ball out from behind your thigh and sweep the right leg around you. So now we're going to take, if you can set up relatively straight with your left foot inside of your right thigh, you may opt for that. If having both legs straight is more comfortable, we're going to use the ball to massage the back of our hamstring muscle. So we're still on that right leg. We're going to place it down closer to the back of the knee. It's not in the back of the knee, but right in that flesh above the back of the knee. And then you're just going to roll your leg in and out. Do it a few times, rolling it in and out, and then keep the leg straight and bring the whole leg in and out. And then let it settle and point and flex your ankle. So as we move the ball up, you may find more tender spots. So we're going to take it up to about halfway up your thigh. First, again, we're going to roll the whole leg in and out. So the leg bone from the hip socket is rolling in and out. And then you're going to lift the leg off the ground a little bit and slide the whole leg in and out. So instead of rolling it, now you're sliding it in and out. And then you're going to let all the weight go into the ball and point and flex. So now we're going to bring the ball up right below the sit bone. So right where the hamstring attaches, and we're going to go through that same cycle. So roll forward to where the ball is right underneath your sit bone. And we'll start first by rolling the leg in and out. Again, if this leg can't bend, that's fine. It can just be straight out to the side. Rolling in and out. Then sliding the leg in and out. It's harder to lift the leg off the ground when it's this close to the sit bone. So slide, and you can lean back too. I'm sitting upright, but you can lean back. And then stay still and point and flex your ankle. Awesome. So we're going to come back down onto our belly and do it all on the other side. So remember, the bottom of your rib cage is going to be at that point of the blanket that's furthest away from you when you're kneeling behind. The rest of the blanket's going to be in this belly area. And this helps us not go into hyperextension in our low back so that we can target more of the extension in the hip, which is what we're working on today. So you're going to bend the left knee out to the side. Place the ball in the back of the kneecap and then squeeze the ball between your calf and your hamstring muscle. For this first set, rest your forehead on your hands, so stack your hands. And we're just going to start by pointing and flexing the left ankle. So kind of priming those muscles up, letting them know, hey, we're about to do something that's going to take a lot of effort. And I don't want you to cramp. You might cramp, but I'm trying to help you kind of learn what you're doing here. And then we're going to bring our awareness into our right leg, our straight leg. Start by pressing the top of the foot into the ground, the knee towards the ground, and the top of the thigh into the ground. So that right leg stays super straight, super strong. And then you're going to lift or think of lifting your left knee off the ground. Lower it back down. Right leg stays strong, lift the left knee. Good. We want to make sure that we're using the muscles that we're supposed to. So slide your left hand into your left pocket or like you had a pocket. And as you lift your left knee, try not to let the hip or where your hip touches your hand roll away from your hand. And we'll do 3 more. So lift, lower. Right leg stay strong, press it down, lift, lower. For the last one, we're going to lift and hold. Keep squeezing the ball. Keep reaching the knee towards the bottom edge of your mat. If it's cramping, you might try pointing and flexing your ankle. We're almost there. Release the knee down. If you need to take a break, take a break. If you need to remove the ball and get rid of the hamstring cramp, you can go ahead and do that. And then we're going to come up onto our elbows, slightly wider than shoulders and in front of the shoulders. The left hand is going to slide down and out. It's going to help to push. So if the ball is no longer behind your knee, go ahead and bring it back. Point the left toes up towards the sky. Start by lifting the knee and then push to tap the foot to the right side of your mat. Roll back down. Lift the knee first, then open the hip, tap. Roll back down. Lift, tap. Low back down. You can use your hand to help. Good. Twist. We have 4 more. Squeeze the ball to keep it behind your knee. As you find hip extension by lifting the knee, then rolling. Last 2. On the last one, you're going to slide your right knee forward in line with your hip. Take the leg behind you. And just for a moment, you can kind of see from my backside before I turn around what this looks like. I still have my ball behind my ankle. If my hips feel good, I'm finding the knee right in line with my hip. If that's too much, I can bring my knee forward of my hip and wrap the arch of my right foot around the knee, like so. So decide what is more comfortable for you. And then we're going to bring the hand to where our pocket would be. Squeeze the glutes to press the hip into the pocket and then pull it away. Squeeze it forward, pull it away. So that ball's still behind the kneecap, or not the kneecap, but behind the knee. And each time I rock my pelvis back towards the floor, I get that little squeeze, that little massage of my hamstring muscles and my calf muscles. Let's do 2 more. And then we're going to bring the knee into the arch of the foot. Crawl up onto your hands, squeeze the glutes to lift up, and then lower back down. Again, you can use your hands for both, or you can use your core to help you lift and lower without your hands. So whatever is working for you, do that. We'll do 1 more. Good. Come down. Right elbow comes to the ground in line with the right hip. We're going to lift the left leg up. We still have that ball behind our thigh. We're going to bend the knee forward so it tracks in line with the bottom knee and then take it back. Left hand on the hip. Keeps the pelvis still so that you're getting extension and flexion in the hip joint, not by moving the pelvis more. So everything stays still except for the hip joint. Let's do 3 more. 2, 1. Good. Remove the ball. And you're going to swing the left leg around so it's out in front of you. This right leg can be inside. You can just have it off to the side. We're going to start with the ball behind, just above the knee, back of the knee. You can lean back. You can sit upright, whatever works for you. We're going to start first by just rolling the leg in and out. And then we're going to lift the foot and glide the whole leg in and out with the toes continuing to point up. And then heel on the ground, point and flex. Good. Bring the leg up to the center of the thigh. Same thing first. We roll the entire leg bone in and out. And then maybe lift the whole leg off the ground, roll, glide the leg in and out. So you'll feel it kind of glide over the entire middle of the hamstring muscles. And then lower the heel, point and flex. And then that last region is the hamstring right at the top, so right below the sit bone. This one, sometimes we have to lean back for a little bit more. The ball, you should actually feel the ball on your sit bone, but right at the edge of it. So rolling the whole leg in and out, and then gliding the whole leg in and out. And then point and flex. Awesome. You can remove the ball from underneath. We are done with the ball. So next we're going to move to the resistance loop. If being on your knees is uncomfortable, you can put a blanket under your knees. If being on your wrists is uncomfortable, you can use your blocks on the second height, and you can have your elbows down on the blocks, so you don't have to be on your hands for this. We will be here for a little while, so maybe you start on your hands and you move to the blocks halfway through. But we are going to start by wrapping the band around our left ankle and the arch of your right foot. So tuck your left toes under. It's on the arch of your right foot. You're going to start with the right toes on the ground. Ribs moving away from the floor, chest moving away from the floor. So we're not collapsing in. We're nice and strong in our upper body, looking straight down between your hands or the blocks, depending on what you're on. We're just going to straighten and bend the right knee. So push the leg into, or the foot, the arch of the foot into the strap. And the toe stays on the ground. We'll do 4 more. And this might seem relatively simple. That's great. If it falls off the arch, just refind it. 2, 1. Bring both knees together. And then make sure the strap is now on your left ankle and on the arch of your right foot. Kick your right heel towards your right hip. So my left toes are still on the ground. My right toes are off the ground. So the heel's closer to my butt. Push your chest and your ribs away from the floor. And you're going to keep your knee bent but lift the knee to hip height. So foot goes straight up towards the sky, pushing into the band, and the heel presses towards the sky. Knee lifts to about hip height. Everything stays still except for, again, the hip. Good. The next time you lift the knee, stay with the knee lifted hip height and then straighten and bend your right knee. So now the only thing that's moving is the knee. And it straightens and then it kicks towards the hip. Straightens and it kicks towards the hip. 3 more. 2, 1. Good. Bring the right knee back down. Keep the band around your ankles. Press your hips back towards your heels like you're moving into child's pose. If you have your elbows on the blocks, they can remain there. They can come on the floor. And just glide your hips side to side. Come up onto your knees, tuck your toes under, take one of your blocks and place it right at the front of your pubic bone. So right across the tops of your thighs and the bottom of your pelvis. And you're going to move your pubic bone into your pelvis and lean back. And come up. Keep pushing the pubic bone into the block as you lean back. And then to come up, push the pubic bone into the block. We'll do 3 more. 2, 1. Come. Bring the block back down to the ground. If you're using them for your elbows, lower down onto your elbows, or else bring the hands to the floor. So the band is still wrapped around your ankles. We're going to take it now into the arch of your left foot. Stays around your right ankle. So first we start left toe stay on the ground. Just push the leg straight back and then bend it in. Straight back, bend it in. And what this teaches us, why we're doing this with the legs still on the ground, is we want the pelvis to stay in neutral, right? So keeping the leg close or the toes close to the ground, make sure that we're not opening that hip to push it back. Good. Bring it now onto, keeping it on the arch of the left foot. Kick your left heel towards your hip. Lift your chest away from the floor. Lift your ribs away from the floor. Keep your spine long, so look straight down. Left heel towards your hip, knees still on the ground. Right toes stay tucked under. Then we're going to press the arch of the foot into the band to lift the knee to hip height. Really pushing the heel and the whole bottom of your foot up towards the sky. 3 more. Keep it lifted this time, and then we're just going to bend and straighten. So the knee stays at the same height as you kick your foot towards the wall beneath your bottom and straighten your left leg for 3 more. 2 and 1. Good. You can remove the band from around your ankle. We are done with the band. Toes touch, knees wide, sit your hips back, move into child's pose, and shift your hips side to side. So in this position, we are getting a stretch of the hamstring towards the top of your thigh. So where the hamstrings attach to the sit bones. Child's pose does stretch that part. Good. Lift up onto your knees. So we're going to do the hip, the Nordic curls again. This is not quite a Nordic curl, but similar enough. If you liked that feedback of your pubic bone pressing into the block, you can continue to use that. See, if you do that, you are having to engage your glutes and your hamstrings. If you feel like you can do that without the block there, you can hold the block out in front of your chest. So lean back, imagine that you're pushing your pubic bone still into the block, and then push the pubic bone forward to come out. So lean back, push the pubic bone forward to lift forward. 3 more. And our upper body leans back, and the lower body stays forward. Awesome. So take your blocks off towards the front of your mat. We're going to step the right leg up between the blocks. So in this position, I'm going to show you with my right knee down. In this position, the hips should be stacked directly over your knee. So we're not trying to stretch this way. We want to stay in that 90-90 position. So you can see when I go forward, the degree in my knee is no longer at 90. It's more 100. We want it stacked, and we want the knee stacked above our heel. I'm going to move this out so you can see for a second. So hip directly over knee. Bring your hand as if you were putting it into your pocket. Without moving forward, just push that part of your hip into your hand. What that means is you got to squeeze your glute so that this kind of shifts forward without this shifting forward. And then at the same time, start to drive your right knee forward. If you need a blanket under your knee, now's the time to put it there. So start to drive your right knee forward. And at the same time, push your left knee forward, push your left pocket forward, and you're dragging your right heel back. So my shoulders are stacked over my hips. I am pushing my left knee as far, it's not moving, but it's like I'm just trying to drag it forward. And at the same time, I'm trying to drag that right heel back. You can think of your thighs like a pair of scissors, and that you're trying to shut that pair of scissors closed. The glutes are working. The hamstrings are working, both of them. We're here for a little over a minute, so we're probably pretty close, but everything is working really actively. You're dragging that right heel back, you're shoving that left knee forward, you're pushing your pocket forward, and you're squeezing your left glute. Good. Lean forward, bring your hands onto the block, and tuck your left toe under. If your knees give you issues, now is a good time to put a blanket under your knee if you have not already. So you're going to come back upright. It's not about straightening this leg. It's about reaching your hips back, like you're going to touch your sit bone towards your heel and then push your pocket forward. And I'll show it from different angles. So sit bones tilt back, come straight up. Sit bones tip back, come straight up. Sit bones go straight back, push. We're not going hip forward of the knee. We're stopping with the hip completely stacked over your left knee. One more time. Pause here. Then you're going to walk your right foot further forward and bring your hands down onto your blocks. Now your left hip is far forward of your right knee. Tuck your back toe under. You're going to kick your left heel towards your hip. And then tap the toe down. Lift, bend the knee to kick the heel towards the hip. Tap the knee down. Slowly kick the heel towards the hip. Tap it down. Kick the heel towards the hip and hold for 10, 9. Imagine squeezing that ball. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Toe comes down. Press the heel like you're going to tamp it into the wall beneath you and lift the back of your thigh to straighten the back leg. Bend the knee to the ground. Kick the heel towards the hip. If you feel a cramp in your thigh, use that as information. So tap the heel down or toe down. Where you felt that cramping, think of pressing it like we did at the beginning of the class, like you had the block behind your thigh. Think of pressing that place that you felt the hamstring engage up to straighten the leg. Good. Knee down. Squeeze heel towards hip. Toe down. Cramp presses up towards the wall as the heel reaches back. Good. 2 more. Knee down, heel towards hip. Toe down, back of the thigh lifts. So it's like you're lifting your leg off the ground from your thigh, not by pressing into your hands or your front foot. One more time, lift, heel towards hip. Tap toe down, lift thigh, hold. Lift the back of the thigh as far as you can. As you can see, I'm not lifting a whole lot because I'm not lifting by pushing myself further away. I'm trying to lift my back leg towards this guy. Good. Knee down. Crawl up onto your right thigh. Elbow on your knee, lean forward, maybe reach back and grab your foot. If you can hold on to your foot, great. If not, you can take that little elastic band that we used before and wrap it around your ankle and use that to pull your foot up. And then once you get there, you're going to pull your foot as close to your hip as you can. You're going to think of whatever muscles you need to keep your foot this close to your butt. And you're going to engage them. Hint, hint. So those muscles that may or may not have been cramping, you're going to hold it there, and then you're going to release your foot, or you're going to release the band, and you're going to try to keep your foot as close to the butt as it started. And then release it. Bring both knees to the ground. Hands to the ground, tuck your toes under, and lift your hips up and back into downward facing dog. Bend your knees pretty deep. Stretch your sit bones up towards the sky, so tilting the front of your hip points to touch your thighs, and then move towards a deeper bend and a slightly less bend by bending just the knees. So the sit points continue to reach towards the sky. Good. Knees to the ground. And if it was uncomfortable on your knee, the other side, and you didn't use the blanket, use the blanket this time. So we're going to take the left foot forward this time. So right hip directly above your right knee. Left heel directly below your left knee. Start to push your pocket into your hand. So squeeze your glute. Then drive your right knee forward as you track your left heel back. Come upright, shoulders stacked above your hips. And think of squeezing a pair of scissors closed. And remember, we're in this really active, everything down below is working hard for a little bit longer than a minute. So keep checking in. Are you dragging your heel back? Are you pushing your right knee forward? Is your right glute squeezed? Do you feel your hamstrings? Are you pushing the pocket forward? Squeeze those scissors shut. Hug the hips in. Do it for 10 more seconds. Good. Lean forward. Tuck the back toes under. And come back up. So we're going to tilt, like we're going to touch our sit bone to our right heel, and then we're going to push the pocket forward to come straight back up. So hinge, push pocket, hinge, push pocket. And when you push the pocket, you're not coming further forward. You're stopping with your hip right above your knee. So you have to engage glutes and hamstrings to activate and stop. One more. Good. Now hands to the ground and crawl your left foot further forward so that now your hip is quite a bit further forward of your right knee. You're almost not on the kneecap, but on top of the knee. And you're going to kick and lower the right heel to the ground. Start by moving slowly. This is where we could potentially cramp if we move too fast. So think of kicking slow and releasing slow. Next time, tuck your toes. Lift just the thigh towards the sky to straighten the knee. Lower the knee back down. Kick heel towards hip. Toe comes down. Where you've been feeling that cramp, use that to lift like you're pressing it into that block like we did at the beginning of class. And then knee back down. Kick. Tap. Lift. And I barely have any weight on my front foot or my hands. I'm allowing the power of my back leg to do all the work. Good. Lift and stay. And then think of just lifting the thigh towards the sky. So not the hips, not the back, just the thigh. Lower the knee back down to the ground. If you need that band, go ahead and find the band and wrap it around your right ankle. If you don't need the band, you can just lift up off your blocks. Elbow can come down onto your left knee. Shift forward to kick the heel up. Grab the front of the foot or use the band. And then start to pull the heel as close to your hip as you can. So imagine whatever muscles you would need to keep the foot as close to your butt as it currently is and engage them. So we're pushing the hip forward, we're squeezing the thigh muscles, and then let go of the foot and keep the foot as close to your butt as you can. For 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release the foot. Release both knees to the ground. Move the blocks out of the way if they're there. And come into downward facing dog. Bend the knees close to the floor and then lift and reach the sit bones as you work towards straightening the legs. Do that a few times. Walk your hands towards your feet and roll up. So we're going to have our toes face the long edge of our mat. Bring your fingertips into the hip creases where they bend. And you're gonna push your hips back as you come to spine parallel to the floor. My knees are they're bent. Hands to the ground. You can have them on the block as well. Feet are parallel, so our toes are not turned out right now, they're parallel. You're gonna bend your knees pretty deep and really stretch your sit bones towards this guy. And then you're gonna push the tops of your thighs towards the backs of your thighs, moving towards straight as you let your head hang towards the ground. So round your spine. So you're moving your knees as much towards straight as possible. If you can't fully fold forward with your knees straight, bring your hands to the floor or to blocks so that you can straighten your knees. Press to the inner edges of your feet. So the ball mount of your big toe and your inner heel. Keep that connection and then also bring weight to the outer edges of your feet. Lift up halfway so your spine is parallel to the floor. Bend your right knee deeply and shift your hips to the right. Press through the inner edge of your left foot. Move towards center and then bend your left knee. Straighten your right leg. Press through the inner edge of your right foot. Shift up through center and just go a little side to side, either way. As you do this, try to keep your spine as long as possible so we're stretching the back of our hamstrings after all that work. As you move towards straightening one leg from bent, think of pressing that leg, that thigh muscle, like you were pressing it into a block at the beginning of class. So actually use the hamstring muscle to help you move towards straight. Crawl both hands to the ground and bring both knees to the ground and sit your hips back on your heels. And just take a moment to let the head come back to center after being down low. Maybe close your eyes and take a few breaths. And shift your hips off to either side. Swing your legs out in front of you. Both legs as straight as possible. Just point and flex your ankles. Something fun to try is to walk on your sit bones and walk backwards. So walking forward and back. And this might be hard if you can't find legs straight. You can try it with legs bent and knees kind of pointing out. Good. Toes point up, arms reach up. Start to tilt forward and drop your hands where your body stops. Point and flex your ankles. And maybe crawl a little further forward. Point and flex your ankles. Arms out in front, roll down. And hug your knees into your chest. You want any additional kind of stretching, you might try happy baby. That's always a good kind of testament of the upper part of your hamstrings. Legs straight brings the knees into it as well. So you might just kind of play with that movement just to kind of notice how your hamstrings feel after this class. And then if you need an additional twist, like of any tension you feel in your low back. And then as you're ready, go ahead and roll to either side to press yourself up. And this concludes the hamstring class. So hopefully you felt some engagement, some strength in your hamstrings, and hopefully throughout the class that started to cramp less and that you could control the bending and the straightening of the leg a little bit more. And hopefully towards the end, you felt that you were able to maybe get a little bit more length than is typical in the backs of your hamstrings. But thank you so much.